On the 22nd of last month, the MLS season opener was held at the Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles. It was a high-profile match between Son Heung-min's LAFC and Lionel Messi's Inter Miami, drawing a massive, near-capacity crowd of over 75,000 fans. What makes these two football icons so special is their genius not just with the ball, but in off-the-ball situations. They possess the creativity to find space where none exists, and the vision to deliver lethal killer passes by accurately predicting the movements of their teammates and opponents. The strategy and tactics of Genoa that we are exploring today share a striking commonality with these two football geniuses. Even without being the flashy protagonists, they identified and occupied the paths where capital would flow, accurately predicted the moves of rivals, and proactively found solutions to maintain a competitive edge. While Venice ruled the seas with their magnificent galleys, the financiers of Genoa gathered in their studies to design the next path for money. They chose not to be the visible number one, but rather the masters of the path, much like a world-class player dominating the pitch off the ball. Since the Roman era, Genoa has been a vital supply route to the provinces of Hispania and a geopolitical hub connecting the heart of the Mediterranean. Those who controlled Genoa controlled the flow. Do you remember those who fled the burning city in our last episode on Antwerp? Those who built great wealth there, only to lose everything in a single day during the Spanish Fury. They gathered what little seed money remained, including outstanding debts, and restarted their financial businesses in Genoa, determined to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. Their first innovation was the mobile exchange fare. Instead of dangerously transporting physical assets like gold or silver, European capitalists met in one place to offset their mutual debts and credits. They only settled the net amount. This system functioned exactly like a modern-day clearinghouse. It was mobile to ensure that if one location was threatened or looted, like Antwerp, the entire system wouldn't collapse. Learning from the tragedy of Antwerp, they realized that stacking spices or gold bars in a warehouse was too risky. Instead, they embedded value in paper certificates called bills of exchange. Complex currency conversions were sold with a single piece of paper, and payments were settled on ledger books at the exchange fairs. In an emergency, they could simply grab their important documents and flee, keeping their fortune intact. Individual merchants were powerless against the coercive demands of monarchs, such as declarations of bankruptcy. To counter this, several families formed a massive financial syndicate, the Bank of St. George. It didn't just act as a bank, it was a powerful organization that, in case of a sovereign default, could seize tax collection rights as collateral to recover their debts directly. However, this clever system faced a major problem, which was also the dilemma of its primary source of income, Spain. While Venice dominated the Mediterranean and Eastern trade, and Portugal had discovered the route to India via the Cape of Good Hope, Spain found itself cornered with no clear way out, at risk of becoming isolated, almost like the current Tottenham hovering near the relegation zone. Chairman Leo of Tottenham, where Son Heung-min played, has already resigned. But if he were still there, facing the threat of relegation, wouldn't he have begged the Maestro Klopp to save the team?
We are on the brink of relegation. Please help us. I will give you full authority, absolute control over everything. Are you truly aiming for the championship? Is that your real goal?
Genoa today has its own football team, Genoa CFC, which has faced similar criticisms to Tottenham, accusations of lacking ambition for titles, and being too eager to sell off star players for profit. Just as Chairman Levy might plead with a manager like Klopp to save his team, the Genoese financiers introduced a relief pitcher to the Spanish crown, which was facing the same anxieties. This was the moment Christopher Columbus, a native of Genoa, stepped onto the center stage of history. In this context, Columbus sailed west toward India, etching his name into human history. This adventure was made possible through the partnership between the Spanish crown and Genoese financiers. The Genoese capitalists were extremely risk-averse. They were conservative investors. Spain, meanwhile, was desperate. The treasury was empty, and its prestige had hit rock bottom after a debt default years earlier. How did such a reckless exploration become possible? Both Genoa and Spain were backed into a corner and needed a breakthrough. The Genoese didn't bet their entire fortune. Instead, they diversified the risk by splitting the investment among many people. This was the precursor to modern project financing, further protected by maritime insurance to minimize potential losses. However, behind this giant gamble lay Columbus's fatal miscalculation. He calculated the Earth's circumference to be much smaller than it actually is, predicting the distance to his destination at only 3,700 kilometers. It was a reckless gamble with the lives of 90 sailors, as the limit for their food and water supplies was only about 5,000 kilometers. If the islands of the Bahamas hadn't coincidentally appeared at the 6,100-kilometer mark, the crew would have perished in the middle of the Atlantic. Columbus made 4 more voyages to the New World, but until the moment he died, he believed it was near India. He closed his eyes without ever realizing his discovery was a new world. The butterfly effect of this delusion was colossal. It led to the fall of the Aztec and Inca empires, and the flood of gold and silver into Europe became the decisive factor that forever changed the global economic landscape. In Mexico, the Aztec Empire fell to Hernán Cortés. In Peru, the Inca Empire collapsed under Francisco Pizarro. From those ruins, an immense volume of gold and silver began crossing the Atlantic in great fleets toward Spain. This is the port of Seville. It was a grand spectacle of galleons filled with loot lining up for customs. In the customs rooms, guards strictly monitored the arrival of physical gold. But this wealth already had an owner. While the sealed wooden crates seemed destined for the Spanish royal treasury, they were, in fact, already recorded as collateral in the ledgers of Genoese financiers. Despite this massive wealth, Spain declared default multiple times due to reckless war spending. Even the Genoese merchants, despite their careful calculations, could not avoid massive losses whenever the Spanish crown collapsed. The limitations of being a city-state were eventually exposed to such massive risks. Around 1620, the flow of capital turned north once again. The merchant groups that had left Antwerp and settled in Amsterdam took the lead. Moving beyond city-based finance, they established a revolutionary mechanism called the Joint Stock Company and a powerful national maritime network, opening a new era of global hegemony. History remembers him as a great discoverer, or recorded him as a cruel invader. But before any judgment, he was a lonely explorer who believed his own miscalculation was the truth until the very end. He closed his eyes without knowing the reality of the land he found, but upon the path he opened, the great waves of capital began to surge. We dedicate this song to him, who sailed his entire life between hallucination and truth.